The mistress was pregnant with twins, and my mother-in-law slammed a $2 million check on my face. Take the money and get out. My grandchildren will have nothing to do with you in the future. I smiled and signed the agreement to leave with nothing, and used the money to immigrate that very day. They thought I was running away in defeat, until my ex-husband's wedding ceremony. In a live broadcast with 100,000 viewers, the MC read out my congratulatory gift, a DNA report for triplets, and a subpoena from the probate court. Our third wedding anniversary. I started preparing at 3 in the afternoon, personally baking a Black Forest cake, simmering Gu Chuan's favorite matsutake chicken soup, and opening a bottle of Romani Conti that he had treasured for many years. At the dining table, candlelight flickered, and roses exuded fragrance. The villa was so quiet that only the ticking of the wall clock could be heard. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Gu Chuan didn't come home. The soup, from scalding hot to lukewarm, finally turned completely cold, just like my heart. Finally, the sound of the lock turning came from the entrance. I got up, wanting to force a smile and say, "You're back." But the door was pushed open violently. And it wasn't just Gu Chuan who barged in. There was also my mother-in-law, and a young, beautiful girl I had only seen on Gu Chuan's phone screensaver. She was wearing a white dress, her abdomen already noticeably protruding, one hand affectionately holding Gu Chuan's arm, and the other hand caressing her belly in a showy manner. My mother-in-law, Li Qin, took the lead, her face filled with undisguised meanness and smugness. She glanced at everything I had carefully arranged, sneering with disdain, as if looking at a pile of unsightly garbage. "Don't bother, Chin Ching. You can put away all your useless things." I stood there, looking at Gu Chuan, who was silent and avoiding my gaze. He didn't dare to look at me, his gaze drifting to the dining table behind me, his brow furrowing unconsciously. H1. Today is our. I couldn't finish my sentence. The girl named Lin Chu Chu, the mistress, took a step forward, leaning against Gu Chuan. "Sister, I'm sorry. H1 was supposed to come back earlier, but I had a prenatal checkup today, and the doctor said the babies are very healthy." H1 was so happy that he accompanied me for a while longer. She took out her phone, opened a ultrasound image, and almost shoved it into my face. The doctor said they're twins, a boy and a girl. The Gu family has heirs now. My mother-in-law, Li Qin, beamed with joy, snatching the phone as if holding a priceless treasure. "Did you hear that? Chin Ching, twins, the great benefactors of our Gu family." Her sharp gaze fell on my flat abdomen, her eyes like poisoned knives, slowly and cruelly cutting me apart. "Married for 3 years. And you can't even produce a fart. You're a hen that can't lay eggs. And you still have the nerve to occupy my daughter-in-law's position." Gu Chuan finally moved, supporting the faltering Lin Chu Chu, and said softly, "Mom, say less." Then, he looked at me, his face, which I had loved for 7 years, filled with exhaustion and impatience. "Ching Ching, Chu Chu is pregnant. I have to be responsible for her and the child." The word responsible, so light and airy, completely erased our 3 years of marriage and 7 years of relationship. I looked at him and suddenly felt incredibly estranged. So, the so-called vows of eternal love were worth less than a newly formed embryo. Seeing that I didn't speak, Li Qin, assuming I was plotting something, impatiently took out a checkbook and a document from her Hermes bag and threw them on the coffee table. With a few swish, swish, swish strokes, she tore off a check and tossed it at my feet like trash. 20 million. Take the money. Sign this agreement to leave with nothing. And get out of the Gu family immediately. Don't dirty my house. And don't delay me from holding my grandsons and granddaughters. The check landed lightly on the expensive Persian carpet. The number 20 million stung my eyes. I thought I would cry, make a scene, and like a madwoman, pounce on them and tear apart their hypocritical faces. But I didn't. I just lowered my head, looked at the check, and then I smiled. I bent down, gracefully picked up the check, and flicked off the non-existent dust with my finger. I raised my head. My gaze passed over the smug mother-in-law and the provocative mistress, and looked straight at Gu Chuan. Gu Chuan, we've been married for 3 years, and our days of love and affection feel like yesterday. So, in your and your mother's eyes, all of that is worth 20 million. Gu Chuan's face paled. His lips moved, but he couldn't say a word. He was a typical overgrown child, spoiled by his mother. Vain and cowardly, he enjoyed the resources and connections my family brought. But deep down, he despised me and couldn't fulfill his mother's wish to carry on the family line. Enough. Qin Qing. Don't push your luck, Li Qin shrieked. If it weren't for the fact that you served Huan for 3 years, you wouldn't get a single penny. What family wants a woman who can't bear children? This 20 million is enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. So sign it and get out. All right, I said softly. I picked up the pen from the coffee table, didn't look at the contents of the agreement, turned directly to the last page, and signed my name. Qin Qing. 2 words, written decisively and neatly, without a trace of longing. I have only one condition. The agreement takes effect today. From now on, we are free to marry and have nothing to do with each other. And never to bother each other again. Li Qin and Lin Chu were both stunned. They had probably envisioned 10,000 scenes of me throwing a tantrum, but they never expected that I would be so decisive. Doubt flashed in Li Qin's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by immense joy. Good for you for knowing what's good for you. Lin Chu even more proudly raised her chin, took Gu Chuan's arm, and looked at me with the posture of a victor. The first didn't look at them again, turned around and went upstairs, dragging out the suitcase I had already prepared. When I came downstairs, the 3 of them were still standing in the living room, as if they were watching a victorious drama. I dragged my suitcase to the door, changed my shoes, and put my hand on the doorknob. I turned back and gave a bright smile to the 3 faces in the living room, each with a different expression. That smile instantly froze the smugness on Li Qin's face. It made Lin Chu subconsciously shrink back behind Gu Chuan, and it made Gu Chuan's eyes reveal genuine unease and panic for the first time. They didn't know that this good show had only just begun. I didn't go to the airport. After leaving the Gu family villa, I took a taxi directly to the emergency room of the city central hospital. After registering for the obstetrics and gynecology department, I sat in the cold corridor, my hands shaking constantly, not out of fear, but out of excitement. A trembling of long-suppressed anger and anticipation finally finding an outlet. The nurse called my name. I lay on the ultrasound bed, the cold coupling agent smeared on my lower abdomen, instantly sobering me up. The doctor moved the probe over my stomach, the screen displaying a blurry black and white image. Huh. The doctor's voice was surprised. My heart jumped to my throat. What's wrong, doctor? Is there something wrong with the baby? The doctor turned her head, adjusted her glasses, and the expression on her face could be described as shock. There's nothing wrong. It's just, there are a few. She turned the screen towards me, pointing to 3 small spots of light on it. Congratulations, Miss Shen. It's triplets, judging by the size of the gestational sacs. It's been 7 weeks. Triplets. 3. My tears, at that moment, burst forth without warning. Not sadness, but ecstasy. A huge sense of relief after surviving a desperate situation. I stroked my still flat abdomen, where I had my 3 closest family members. And my strongest trump card for revenge. Didn't the Gu family want offspring? Are twins so amazing? I have 3 here. I took the ultrasound report. The 3 clear gestational sacs on it like 3 medals of victory. Walking out of the hospital, I did not hesitate and dialed a number that was deeply ingrained in my memory. Hello, Joe Man. On the other end of the phone came the calm and capable voice of my best friend, Lawyer Joe. Ching ching. It's so late. What's Joe Man? Let's do it. I interrupted her. My voice calmed to the point of being unlike myself. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the phone. Joe Man is one of the top commercial lawyers in the country, and also the only person who knows and executes my revenge plan. She immediately understood what I meant. He came clean. Yeah, with his mistress and a $2 million check. Joe Man cursed softly on the other end. Okay. I understand. Everything is ready. I submitted the expedited application for immigration procedures this afternoon. And it should be approved as early as tomorrow. The asset evaluation report and relevant litigation materials of the Gu Group have also been fully archived and can be initiated at any time. My thoughts drifted back to a year ago. At that time, I inadvertently discovered another phone hidden by Gu Chuan in his study. The chat records inside were appalling. His affair with Lin Chu had already begun. At that moment, my world fell apart. I cried. I questioned. But Gu Chuan just hugged me and said I'm sorry. Said he just made a mistake that all men in the world make. Said that he loved me the most. I believed it. Or rather, I chose to believe it. Until one day, when I went back to my parents' home to sort out my grandfather's belongings, I found an investment agreement locked in the deepest part of his safe. It was $300 billion that my grandfather invested in the nearly bankrupt Gu family in my name the year I got married. It was this money that brought the Gu family back to life, catapulting them into the ranks of a city's new money. And in the additional terms of the contract, written in extremely small font, was a hidden provision: this equity investment is held by Miss Shinqing on behalf. If the marriage between Miss Shinqing and Mr. Gu Chuan breaks down, and Miss Shinqing has direct descendants, then this $300 billion equity and all incremental income generated during the marriage will automatically be transferred to the name of her descendants, managed by Miss Shinqing as the sole guardian. If Miss Shinqing has no descendants, this equity investment will be regarded as a gratuitous gift to the Gu family. I understood everything in an instant. Why Li Qin had been trying every possible way for 3 years to force me to go to the hospital for a checkup. Why she always implied in front of outsiders that I couldn't have children. Why Gu Chuan cheated on me but was reluctant to mention divorce. They weren't waiting for me to forgive them. They were waiting for the doctor to give me a death sentence, to confirm that I really couldn't have children, so they could legitimately swallow the family property that my grandfather had left to me and my descendants. From that day on, I stopped crying and making a fuss. On the surface, I was still the gentle and obedient Mrs. Gu, but behind the scenes, I began to pave the way for myself. I secretly went for a full medical examination, and the doctor said that I was in very good health and very easy to conceive. I found the best lawyer, Joe Man, and began to collect evidence of Gu Chuan's infidelity, and began preparing for everything to fight back. They thought I was a lamb to be slaughtered, but they didn't know that I had already sharpened my knife. I even calculated my ovulation period and successfully conceived a child during one of Gu Chuan's drunken confessions. I thought it would be one, but I didn't expect that God would give me 3 times the surprise. After hanging up the phone, I went to the airport. In the VIP waiting room, I took out that ultrasound report and the newly issued passport and visa, took a photo, and posted a message on Moments. The caption was, "A new life begins." I blocked everyone, only visible to the Gu family. I know that when Gu Chuan and Li Qin see this post, they will only sneer, thinking that I took the $20 million and completely admitted defeat. fleeing in disgrace. Flee. No, I am not running away. I am going to welcome my children and, by the way, take back everything that rightfully belongs to us. During the dozen or so hours of the flight to Vancouver, I slept particularly soundly. Upon landing, the assistant arranged by Joe Man was already waiting at the exit. A black van took me directly to a seaside villa in West Vancouver. Pushing open the door, sunlight streamed through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, filling the entire living room. In the distance, there was the azure sea and the continuous snow-capped mountains. Miss Shin, this is the house that Attorney Zhou selected for you. She said you like the sea, the assistant said respectfully. The house was fully equipped. From a nutritionist and nanny to a full-time driver, I settled in here and began a peaceful and regular prenatal life. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of the waves, enjoying a carefully prepared breakfast by the nutritionist. In the morning, I did some soothing prenatal yoga under the guidance of a personal trainer. In the afternoon, I would sit in a lounge chair in the garden, basking in the sun, reading, or processing some documents sent by Joe Man. Joe Man sent me a war situation report every day, allowing me to remotely watch the Gu family's clown show. The day after I left, the Gu family couldn't wait to officially announce the marriage of Gu Chuan and Lin Chuchu. The press release was written in high-sounding terms, saying that I could not conceive due to health reasons. For the sake of the Gu family's lineage, I took the initiative to choose a peaceful divorce and wished my ex-husband well in finding true love. For a time, I became the laughingstock of the A City's elite circle, the abandoned ex-wife, the barren hen. Lin Chucha's social platform instantly became her show. Today, she posted a picture of a pigeon egg-sized engagement diamond, with the caption, "Thank you for giving me a home. For the rest of my life, it will be you, tomorrow." She posted a photo of her and Gu Chuan kissing under the Eiffel Tower, with the caption, "The best love is planning you into my future." Mother-in-law Li Qin was not idle either. She publicized it in her wealthy afternoon tea circle, saying that I was occupying the toilet without pooping and was finally sent away like a beggar with 20 million. She described it vividly, as if I were a despicable woman, and she was the female hero who saved the entire family. Public opinion was controlled by them in a one-sided manner. Everyone thought I was pitiful and pathetic. None of my so-called friends called to comfort me. Instead, they gossiped about me behind my back, saying that I had no ability to keep a man's heart. The Gu family pushed this victory to a climax. They held an extremely luxurious baby shower at the most luxurious 6-star hotel in the city center for the Dragon and Phoenix twins and Lin Chucha's belly. Media reporters flocked to the scene, and the flashes almost blinded people. At the party, Gu Chuan, dressed in a custom-made suit, embraced Lin Chuchu, who was wearing a pink dress. With a beaming smile, he lovingly stroked Lin Chucha's belly in front of the camera. "This is the gift I've been most looking forward to in my entire life. Thank you, my wife, for bringing hope to our family." As he said this, the happiness on his face almost overflowed. I sat in the Vancouver sunlight, watching the live news footage on my tablet, and expressionlessly turned off the video. I looked down at my slightly bulging belly. My babies are also growing healthily. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Joe Man. "The higher they fly now, the harder they'll fall on their wedding day. The court summons and DNA report are ready. Notarization and translation are all complete. Just waiting for their big day." I replied to her, "Don't rush. Let them fly a little longer. The peak of the carnival is the best time for the curtain call. Yes, don't rush. I am very patient. I want them to stand on the clouds, enjoying the glory of being the center of attention, and then personally drag them into hell." Gu Chuan and Lin Chucha's wedding was set for a month later. The night before the wedding, I received a strange overseas call. I answered it, but didn't speak. The other end of the phone was silent for a long time before a voice that was both familiar and disgusting came through. Ching ching. Is that you? Are you doing well overseas? It was Gu Chuan. His voice sounded a little tired, but also carried a deliberate gentleness. I didn't say a word, quietly listening to his performance. I know you must be very sad. I'm sorry. Ching ching. I didn't mean to. He started playing the emotional card, rambling on about the sweet times we had together since university. He said that the first time he saw me was in the library, the sunlight shining on me, and he felt that he fell in love with me at first sight. He said that he remembered the roadside stalls we ate at together, the midnight movies we watched together. He said that there was always a place for me in his heart. Hearing this, my stomach churned, and I almost threw up. This man, just a second ago, was making vows of eternal love to another woman in front of the media. And the next second he could tell me how deeply he regretted everything. His love is so cheap it's laughable. You know what my mom is like. She's all bark and no bite. She wants to have a grandson so badly that she said some harsh things to you. Don't take it to heart. That 20 million was a little something from my mom. If you don't think it's enough, I'll give you a little more privately. I finally understood. This phone call was not a confession of unforgettable old feelings. This was the final test, and the final humiliation. From him and Li Qin, they were afraid that I, the abandoned wife, would be unwilling to accept my fate and would run to make a scene at their wedding on their most important day, causing them to lose all face. So, he used this hypocritical tenderness and monetary charity to appease me, to ensure that I would not become a problem at their grand wedding. Thinking of this, the sneer in my heart almost burst through my throat. I cleared my throat and spoke in a deliberately suppressed, trembling voice with a sob. No need. Ah Chuan, if you can be happy, then I'll be relieved. I wish you happy wedding. My voice was humble, obedient, and tinged with the grievance and reluctance of being abandoned. It was the role I had most often played in front of him during the past 3 years. Gu Chuan on the other end of the phone audibly breathed a sigh of relief. He probably thought I was still the same foolish woman who deeply loved him, whom he could manipulate at will. He changed the subject, tossing out the cruelest bait of the evening. Ching ching. I know you must be lonely being abroad by yourself. Tomorrow is my wedding. You must be even sadder. How about this? When Choo Choo and I have a child, if you're willing, come back and be their godmother. Okay, godmother. Let me be the godmother to my husband and his mistress child. At that moment, the last bit of regret I had for our past relationship was completely crushed. I could even imagine the condescending, patronizing smugness on Gu Chuan's face as he said those words. I dug my fingernails into my palm, using the pain to keep my voice steady. I responded to him with a tone of surprised stammering. Really? Can I? Ah Chuan, I'm so happy. I prepared gifts for the babies a long time ago, but I just haven't had a chance to give them. Tomorrow, I'll have someone deliver them to the wedding. Okay, just consider it my godmother's welcoming gift to them. My excitement and gratitude completely dispelled Gu Chuan's last doubts. His tone became lighter, filled with perfunctory reassurance. Of course, Ching Ching. It's great that you think that way. Then get some rest. Don't overthink things. Okay. Hanging up the phone, all the expressions on my face instantly vanished, leaving only a cold, emotionless calm. I walked to the window, looking out at the inky black sea, into the air. I said softly, word by word, in a voice only I could hear. Gifts. Don't worry. It will definitely be a grand gift that you'll never forget. Wedding of the century. Gu Chuan and Lin Chuchu's wedding truly deserved those 4 words. The wedding was held at the most luxurious seaside manor in City A, which had been booked for 3 days. The venue was decorated with tens of thousands of white tulips and roses air freight from the Netherlands, creating a dreamlike and fairy tale-like setting. Almost all of City's most prominent figures were present to showcase their happiness and love. The wedding was also broadcast live online. The title of the live stream was "Billionaire CEO Marries True Love." Witnessing a fairy tale of the century, the number of online viewers exceeded 100,000 even before the wedding began. The comments section was filled with unanimous happy ever after, perfect match, and heavenly love, wearing comfortable maternity clothes. I leaned back on the sofa in my Vancouver home, using a tablet to coldly watch this grand farce. In the video, Gu Chuan was in a white tuxedo, handsome and tall, his face brimming with undisguised high spirits. Beside him, Lin Chuchu wore a luxurious wedding dress custom-made by a famous French designer, a priceless diamond tiara adorning her head, her face radiating the blissful smile of a dream come true. My former mother-in-law, Li Qin, was dressed in a festive red cheongsam, adorned with jewelry, flitting among the guests, her smile reaching her ears. As proud as a queen, the wedding ceremony proceeded step by step. Exchanging rings, a passionate embrace. Gu Chuan delivered his declaration of love to the camera. "Thank you, Chu Chu, for coming into my life with our hope. I love you forever." Lin Chu Chu was moved to tears. The livestream's comments section was instantly flooded with "so sweet," and "I believe in love again." I yawned, feeling a bit bored. Fortunately, the most exciting part was about to begin. The MC announced in an exciting voice, "Next, let us witness the wonderful blessings that the guests have for the newlyweds. Please welcome our ushers." The atmosphere reached its climax. At that moment, a man in a black fitted suit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, and possessing a capable aura, walked onto the stage. He wasn't an usher. He was Zhou Man's chief assistant, Xiao Zhang. Xiao Zhang held a beautifully packaged, deep blue velvet gift box in his hands. The MC paused for a moment, but professionally took the microphone. "It seems we have a special guest who wants to offer a special gift. May I ask, sir, who are you?" Xiao Zhang adjusted his glasses and said clearly into the microphone, "I have been entrusted by Miss Shinqing to deliver a wedding gift from overseas to Mr. Gu Chuan and Miss Lin Chuchu." The mention of Shinqing caused a stir in the room. Gu Chuan and Li Qin's expressions changed slightly at the same time. The live stream comments section also exploded instantly. "Hen Qing, is that the ex-wife? What's going on? The ex-wife is sending a gift. That's so generous. She's here to crash the party." The experienced MC immediately smoothed things over. "So, it's Miss Shin's well wishes. How touching. Let's see what this blessing from across the ocean is." As he spoke, he opened the exquisite gift box. However, when he saw what was inside, the smile on his face instantly froze, and fine beads of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. His hands began to tremble uncontrollably. "Read it. What is it? Stop dawdling." Li Qin urged impatiently from below the stage. Gu Chuan also frowned, casting an urging glance. The MC's lips trembled, under the gaze of the entire audience and the hundreds of thousands watching online. He stammered, in a tone as if announcing a funeral, A gift from Miss Shinqing. Gift number 1. A DNA paternity test report." The entire venue was silent. The live stream comments paused for a second, then exploded at an exponential rate. "A DNA report. What the heck? Ex-wife sends DNA report. That's a lot of information." The MC's voice was already tearful. The report shows that the gift giver, Miss Shinqing, has a probability of biological father-son relationship with the groom, Mr. Gu Chuan, of 99. He paused, as if to use all his strength. And the gift giver is the surrogate mother of triplets. Boom. The whole world seemed to explode. Triplets. The guests at the scene gasped. And everyone's eyes shot towards Gu Chuan on the stage like sharp swords. Gu Chuan's face instantly turned from red to white, then from white to green, and finally became bloodless. He rushed over like crazy, snatched the report. And when he saw my signature and the red stamp of a city's first people's hospital on the report, his body shook violently, and he almost couldn't stand. Lin Chuch's face also turned pale. She grabbed Gu Chuan's arm tightly, muttering, "Impossible. This is impossible. She can't have children." And this was not the end. The MC trembled and took out the second document from the gift box. It was a formal document in a craft paper envelope, with the court's wax seal. Gift 2. Summons from a city's supreme inheritance court. The content of the summons. Regarding Mr. Wang Jinshan, Miss Xinqing's grandfather. Investment of 30 billion equity assets and additional gains in Gus Group on X year, X month, X day. Inheritance. Lawsuit. 30 billion. This number exploded at the wedding like a real bomb. Ah! A shrill scream pierced the sky. Li Qin rolled her eyes and fell straight back, fainting on the spot. The scene was in chaos. Guests exclaimed. Security guards shouted. Everything was a mess, and Gu Chuan on the stage stared at the live broadcast camera, his eyes seeming to want to devour me alive through the screen. He was shaking all over. His veins were bulging, and all his decency and demeanor disappeared at this moment. He suddenly went crazy, let out a beast-like roar, and pushed the expensive champagne tower beside him to the ground. "Xinqing, you venomous woman." Crash. The sound of crystal glasses breaking was crisp and loud. The live broadcast was abruptly cut off amidst the extreme chaos and Gu Chuan's ferocious, broken-down roar. The screen went black. I put down the tablet, picked up the warm milk at hand, and took a sip. Well, the temperature is just right, although the wedding live broadcast was cut off. But in this era where everyone has a mobile phone, the truth cannot be covered up. In less than 10 minutes, the 2-6 wife sends triplets DNA report to wedding in Gus Group 30 billion inheritance dispute directly topped the trending search list like rockets, followed by a bright red-hot word. Various chaotic videos recorded by guests at the wedding scene on their mobile phones began to spread wildly across the internet. In the video, several security guards frantically carried Li Qin onto an ambulance, her makeup smeared by tears. Looking utterly disheveled, Lin Chuch's expensive wedding dress was torn in the chaos, leaving her collapsed on the ground, her eyes empty and lost. And Gu Chuan, the always image-conscious CEO, paced back and forth in the ruined wedding venue like a madman, cursing incessantly, his face contorted in rage. An hour after the incident, the Gu Group's PR department released a weak and unconvincing statement, attempting to frame everything as malicious rumors spread by a scorned ex-wife, and claiming they would pursue legal action against me. They falsely accused me of forging documents, saying it was impossible for me to be pregnant. However, their statement was immediately refuted by Zhou Man's law firm's official account, less than 5 minutes after it was released. With a series of irrefutable evidence, Zhou Man first presented an official ultrasound diagnostic report with a bright red official seal from the A City First People's Hospital, along with a statement from the DNA testing center. Then, she presented a photo of the filing receipt from the A City Supreme Inheritance Court. The evidence was conclusive and undeniable. The Gu family's PR statement instantly became a joke. But Zhou Man's killing spree wasn't over yet. As public opinion reached its peak, she released the second and most fatal wave of bombshells, a high-definition recording. The recording was of the conversation that took place 3 months ago. when Li Qin and Lin Chuchu came to my house and forced me to divorce. The recording pen was hidden in a pen I was wearing on my chest at the time. In the recording, Li Qin's mean and vicious voice was clearly audible. A hen that doesn't lay eggs. Occupying the toilet without doing your business. 20 million. That's enough to get rid of a beggar. Take the money and get lost. My grandsons and granddaughters are precious. They have nothing to do with a jinx like you. This recording completely ignited the anger of the entire internet. The facade of peaceful divorce and ex-wife's health issues created by the Gu family's online trolls was shattered. The image of a vicious mother-in-law, a cowardly husband, and an arrogant mistress was vividly presented to all internet users. And I, from a pitiful, infertile woman, was transformed into a big heroine holding triplets and legal weapons. Enduring and seeking revenge. Public opinion completely sided with me. When the stock market opened the next day, the Gu Group's stock price unsurprisingly plummeted right at the opening bell. Its market value evaporated by billions in a single day. Partners who had once called the Gu family brothers began to distance themselves. Signed projects were urgently halted, and ongoing negotiations were all called off. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. When the wall crumbles, everyone pushes. This is the most realistic rule of the commercial world. Lin Chucha's social media accounts were completely overrun by angry netizens. The comment section contained hundreds of thousands of messages, all calling her a mistress and a scheming bitch. Her past misdeeds were also dug up, including how she had plastic surgery, how she mingled in wealthy circles, and her history of being an escort. Outside the Gu family's villa, reporters and self-media broadcasters swarmed, creating an impenetrable barrier. They had become rats trapped in a cage, afraid to even step outside. I scrolled through the news on my phone, watching them descend step by step towards their ruin, and felt little more than a faint ripple of emotion. I simply finished the warm milk in my cup and walked to the window, gently touching my stomach. Babies, your first appearance was a great success. Your mother is proud of you. The uproar in the media was just the appetizer. The real checkmate came in the form of a legal thunderbolt. After Zhou Man submitted an expedited application, the court, citing a huge amount of money involved and the risk of asset transfer, swiftly issued an enforcement order. All of Gus Group's corporate accounts, as well as all private bank accounts, stocks, and funds in the names of Gu Chuan and his mother, Li Qin, were frozen according to the law. This meant that, overnight, the Gu family had gone from a so-called billionaire dynasty to penniless debtors. The company's operations instantly ground to a halt. Employees' salaries couldn't be paid. Suppliers' payments couldn't be settled, and mountains of orders became worthless paper. Banks, with their keen sense of smell, were the first to take action. Loan recovery teams from major banks, like sharks sensing blood, swarmed in, directly demanding loan repayments and initiating legal procedures for mortgaged assets. It was then that everyone realized that the seemingly prosperous Gu Group was, in reality, an empty shell. Most of its assets were heavily mortgaged, and once the cash flow was cut off, it would be a complete disaster. When Li Qin woke up in the hospital, she didn't even have time to grieve for her lost grandson and daughter-in-law before she discovered that all of her bank cards were frozen. She rushed to the bank to withdraw cash, only to be politely informed by the teller that her account was abnormal and could not be operated. She threw a tantrum in the bank lobby, crying that the bank was robbing her, and the spectacle was filmed by passers-by and once again became a trending topic. Titled "Former Rich Wife Throws Tantrum in Bank." Her former good sisters in the wealthy social circles now avoided her like the plague, not answering her calls or replying to her messages. Lin Chucha's life wasn't much better. She was horrified to discover that many of the luxury cars and designer bags that Gu Chuan had given her were either being paid for in installments or were simply leased. Now that the Gu family had fallen, leasing companies and banks flocked to her door, taking back one by one those things that symbolized her status as a wealthy heiress. The magnificent villa they lived in was also sealed by the court. Because, according to the asset valuation report submitted by Joe Mann, the villa belonged to the increased value of my grandfather's original $30 billion investment and should be included in the scope of the inheritance lawsuit. Overnight, they had fallen from the clouds into the mud, stripped of the disguise of money. This so-called happy family also began to crumble. Li Qin started cursing Lin Chuchu as a bringer of bad luck, saying that if it weren't for the money-losing daughter in her belly, the Gu family wouldn't have ended up where they were today. Lin Chuchu retorted sharply, calling Li Qin an old hag who had initially deceived her by claiming the Gu family's wealth was substantial, when in reality, it was just an empty shell, causing her to waste her youth in vain. The house was in constant chaos. With endless arguments, Gu Chuan was overwhelmed by it all. He tried to contact his former business partners, uncles, and elders, begging them to lend the Gu family a hand, but when he called, they either hung up directly or said they were unable to help. It was then that he truly realized everything he possessed, his proudly held identity as president of Gu Corporation, the flattery and entourages, the readily available resources. All of it was not because of how great he was, but rather, it was built upon my grandfather's $30 billion investment. He was merely a parasite relying on my family's protection. After understanding this, he completely broke down. He started calling and messaging me frantically. At first, it was furious cursing, calling me a venomous woman and an ingrate. Later, it turned into humble begging. Ching ching. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Can we start over? For the sake of our 7 years together, please let me go. As long as you drop the lawsuit, I'll divorce Lin Chuchu immediately. We'll remarry. Our family will live a good life together. I didn't look at any of these messages, and directly set them to do not disturb. Joe Mann asked me, should I block him? I shook my head. No. I want him to send messages. To say whatever he wants. I want him to experience the helplessness and despair of exerting all his strength, only to roar into the void, just like I once did, after Gu Chuan ran into dead ends domestically. He did something I didn't expect. He found out my address in Vancouver through illegal channels. Then, he sold off his last few unseized personal items, a few luxury watches and an older model sports car that wasn't subject to confiscation, and bought a plane ticket to Vancouver. He believed that as long as he found me and begged me in person, there would still be a chance. That afternoon, I was taking a walk in the garden below my apartment building. 7 months pregnant. My belly was very noticeable, and my complexion was rosy due to ample nutrition. Suddenly, the apartment's security captain ran up to me anxiously. Miss Shin, there's someone outside claiming to be your ex-husband, insisting on coming in to see you. Before I could speak, I saw a figure breaking through the security guard's obstruction at the apartment gate not far away, rushing towards me like a madman. It was Gu Chuan. He looked 10 years older than the last time I saw him. The once handsome, dashing, and spirited President Gu was now disheveled, with a scruffy beard, wearing wrinkled clothes, with sunken eyes and bloodshot eyes. Looking haggard and dejected, my 2 newly hired, towering bodyguards immediately stepped forward, one on each side, and pinned him down. He struggled desperately, but they held him firmly on the ground, wearing comfortable flats and carrying my enormous pregnant belly. I walked slowly toward him, escorted by the bodyguards. When Gu Chuan saw me, saw my belly that was more than a little bigger than Lin Chuchu's, his eyes filled with shock, regret, jealousy, and a madness that was about to erupt. Ching ching, chin ching. He struggled and roared at me. Then, he did something that stunned even the bodyguards beside me. He gave up struggling. His knees buckled, and he knelt straight down on the ground. He crawled on his knees, like a dog, to my feet, trying to grab the hem of my skirt. Ching ching. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please forgive me just this once. Okay. He looked up, his face covered in tears and snot, with not a shred of dignity left. Let's remarry. Let's remarry. Okay. Look, you're carrying our child. The child can't be without a father. His cries attracted the attention of some of the neighbors around. I stopped, looking down at the man I had once loved to the core. My heart was completely calm. I even felt a little amused. I gently brushed away his outstretched hand, coldly walked around him, and prepared to leave. Father, I said softly, my voice not loud, but clear enough for him to hear. Of course my children have a father, but their father's surname isn't Gu. Gu Chuan knelt on the ground, his whole body stiff, looking at me in disbelief. I ignored him and said calmly to the bodyguards, "Please take him away. I don't want to see him again." The bodyguards understood and stepped forward to drag him away. Gu Chuan seemed to be stimulated by these words, suddenly bursting out with his last bit of strength. "Chin Ching, how can you be so heartless? Don't forget. Who was it that lifted you out of an ordinary family? It was me. It was me who gave you everything you have now. You can't treat me like this." I finally stopped, turned around, looked at his face distorted by despair, and smiled. "Gu Chuan, are you mistaken about something? You don't love me. You just love my grandfather's money. You didn't give me everything. Everything you have was given to you by my grandfather. You always said I couldn't have children. Now I'm pregnant with triplets. You should thank me. It's me who preserved your Gu family's bloodline. And also preserved your wishful thinking of embezzling 30 billion. Every word I said was like a knife, piercing deeply into his heart. He wept bitterly, his mouth beginning to ramble incoherently. No, I love you. I was just blinded by greed for a moment. It's all my mother. It's that bitch Lin Choo Choo. They bewitched me. Don't insult pigs. I interrupted him coldly. Pigs are much smarter than you. You are just simply stupid and bad. Having said that, I never looked back. I straightened my back and walked, step by step, back into my sunshine. Behind me, Gu Chuan's desperate cries were scattered by the wind, growing more and more distant until they could no longer be heard. His punishment had only just begun, and I had not even the slightest interest in looking at him again. Gu Chuan was detained by the Vancouver police for 2 days on charges of harassment and illegal intrusion, and then deported back to China. Upon his return, he was met with an even more fragmented mess. Joe Man told me that Lin Choo Choo had an accident during the very days Gu Chuan flew to Vancouver to find me. Due to days of fright, arguments, and malnutrition, she had a threatened miscarriage, a massive hemorrhage, and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. The children were born prematurely, the Dragon and Phoenix twins, on whom the Gu family had placed so much hope, were born as thin as 2 kittens and immediately sent to the neonatal intensive care unit in incubators. The daily medical expenses were astronomical, but the Gu family, in its current state, couldn't come up with a penny. Gu Chuan and Li Qin frantically borrowed money everywhere. But those former friends had become shrinking turtles, either not answering the phone or pleading poverty. Lin Chucha's family came from their rural hometown. Her parents and brother, upon learning that the so-called billion-dollar family was just an empty shell, and that their daughter had not only failed to marry into a wealthy family but might also be saddled with huge debts, completely exploded. They blocked Gu Chuan in the hospital corridor during his visit. They punched and kicked Gu Chuan, cursing him as a liar, a bastard, and demanding he return their daughter's youth. Gu Chuan was beaten black and blue, looking utterly disgraced, and my former mother-in-law, Li Qin, didn't show her face at the hospital even once. She hid in a basement borrowed from a friend, repeating the same phrase over and over. Money losers, all money losers in her eyes. The 2 grandchildren lying in the incubators, their lives hanging in the balance, were not family, but 2 burdens requiring constant money. The hospital drama ultimately ended with a huge argument between Lin Chu-chu and Gu Chuan. They blamed and cursed each other, pushing all the blame onto the other. Lin Chu-chu, holding her 2 weak children and owing the hospital a large sum of medical fees, left the hospital silently one morning with her family and disappeared. Some said she took the children back to her hometown. Others said she thought the children were a burden, abandoned them at the hospital entrance, and ran away herself. In short, she and her twins completely disappeared from Gu Chuan's world. Gu Chuan, the man who had abandoned his wife and children for the sake of descendants, had finally become truly alone. Even his most valued bloodline had become a complete mess, a total joke. When I heard this news, I was playing Mozart music for my baby's prenatal education. My heart is as still as a mill pond. What goes around comes around. The seeds of evil they sowed with their own hands have finally yielded the bitter fruit they must now swallow. This has nothing to do with me. I need only wait quietly for my children to enter this world healthy and whole. The 30 billion inheritance lawsuit is officially underway. I did not return home. I gave full power of attorney to Zhou Man and her top-notch legal team. On the day of the hearing, Gu Chuan appeared at the defendant's seat, a mere shadow of his former self. He looked even more haggard than he had in Vancouver, with streaks of white already threading through his hair. Li Qin did not appear, citing health reasons, and sent only a proxy lawyer. But all of this was in vain. Faced with the mountain of irrefutable evidence prepared by Zhou Man's team, any rebuttal from the opposing lawyers seemed feeble and powerless. Zhou Man, with her clear logic and sharp words, dissected the legal validity of my grandfather's additional clause and the Gu family's attempts to transfer and conceal assets over the past 3 years with incisive precision. That long-sealed contract clause was publicly read aloud in court, shocking all the media and business people in attendance. Everyone was filled with admiration for my deceased grandfather. They praised his foresight, using a single contract to pave the most solid guarantee for his granddaughter and her descendants. The court's proceedings were almost devoid of suspense. The judge ruled in favor of all our claims in court. The judgment stated that the core assets of the Gu Group, that is, the 30 billion in shares invested by my grandfather, and all the added value generated over the years, would belong entirely to me and my 3 children. The moment the judgment was handed down, the Gu Group officially changed hands. I became the largest shareholder of this billion-dollar listed company. When Gu Chuan heard the verdict, he seemed to have had all the bones in his body removed, slumping limply in the defendant's chair. In the photos taken by reporters, his eyes were vacant, and his face was ashen. That afternoon, the news reached Li Qin's ears. It is said that she was at a distant relative's house, complaining to others about how unfilial her son was and how vicious her daughter-in-law was. When she saw the verdict in the news on her phone, she couldn't catch her breath. Her eyes went black, and she fell straight down. Stroke. Although she was rescued, her life was saved, but she was ruined, paralyzed on one side, with a crooked mouth and eyes. She couldn't even speak a complete sentence and could only lie in bed all day, needing someone to feed and bathe her, and the responsibility of taking care of her naturally fell on her only son, Gu Chuan. Gu Chuan not only had to face the enormous gap of falling from the clouds but also had to deal with countless private debts and, like a nanny, take care of a bedridden mother who might lose control of her bowels at any time. Day after day, I was at the hospital for my final prenatal checkup when I received the 4 words from Zhou Man. We won. I looked at the clear outlines and strong heartbeats of the 3 babies on the ultrasound screen and calmly turned off my phone. Everything has settled. Those who hurt me have received their due punishment. and I am about to welcome the most beautiful new life in my life. Half a month later, I successfully gave birth to my triplets in a Vancouver hospital. 2 boys and 1 girl. All 3 babies are very healthy. When the nurse cleaned them, wrapped them in soft blankets, and brought them to me, I felt like I instantly owned the whole world. Looking at their 3 wrinkled but incredibly cute little faces, all my grievances, anger, and unwillingness vanished at this moment. Jo-Man made a special trip from China to see me and the babies. She brought a thick stack of company handover documents, as well as information on the professional management team she had assembled for me. I lay in the hospital bed and signed the equity transfer and authorization documents. I used this $30 billion asset to establish a trust fund. The fund is managed by the most professional team, and I only act as the final decision maker. All proceeds will be used for the education and future of the 3 children. After dealing with all this, I took something out of my carry-on bag. That $2 million check from Li Qin that I had treasured for a long time. It had been neatly placed in my passport holder. Crossing the entire Pacific Ocean, Jo-Man looked at the check, a little puzzled. Qing, why are you still keeping this? Doesn't it bother you to look at it? Just tear it up. I smiled and shook my head. No, it's very useful. After being discharged from the hospital, I found the best framer in Vancouver and solemnly framed the check with the highest quality frame. Then, I hung it on the most conspicuous wall in the nursery. Jo-Man looked at my actions, even more confused. I held a baby who had just finished drinking milk and was burping, walked to the frame, and said softly to her, Jo-Man, you know what? This is not humiliation to me. This is my first angel round investment. Jo-Man was stunned. I smiled and continued. Without this 20 million startup capital, my subsequent immigration, hiring lawyers, and prenatal care, all the plans could not have proceeded so smoothly. It reminds me that I used 3 years of forbearance and a shameful agreement to exchange for the capital to fight back in a new life for my children. I want my children to know from an early age that they should never give up on themselves easily. Why? Every crisis has the potential to become a turning point in your life. More importantly, let them know that their mother is not a weakling who can only be bullied. My return on investment is very high. Isn't it? Jo-Man looked at me, at the confident and calm smile on my face. She was silent for a long time. And then, she smiled too. Qing, you are the coolest woman I have ever met. The sun shone warmly through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the nursery, shining on me and the babies, reflecting golden light off the framed check. Everything was a brand new beginning. A year later, I returned to China with the triplets, who could now toddle around, to register their household. A city hadn't changed much. Only the legend of the Gu family had long become a forgotten after-dinner conversation. I arranged to meet Jo-Man and my trust fund partner at a quiet corner coffee shop to discuss the fund's next quarter investment direction. The 3 little ones, accompanied by 2 nannies, were having a blast in the coffee shop's children's area. They inherited all the good qualities from me and Gu Chuan, looking like exquisitely carved little porcelain dolls, attracting frequent glances from those around us. Halfway through the meeting, the coffee shop door was pushed open. A man wearing a yellow delivery uniform and a helmet, with a face weathered by life, walked in carrying a delivery. He skillfully placed the delivery at the front desk and turned to leave. At that moment, as he turned, I instinctively looked up. Our eyes met. It was him, Gu Chuan. He saw me too. He saw me, dressed elegantly and radiating vitality. He saw the young, handsome, and extraordinary young talent my fund partner sitting across from me. He saw the 3 lively and lovely children playing and laughing in the sunlight not far away. His gaze moved back and forth between me and the children. In his eyes, there was shock, pain, remorse, envy, but more than anything, a deep-seated inferiority and misery, as if burned. He suddenly withdrew his gaze, not daring to look at me again. He lowered his head and almost ran, fleeing the coffee shop. Jo-man followed my gaze and only saw a hurried figure. She frowned and asked me, "Should we?" I shook my head, looked away, picked up the coffee in front of me, and took a light sip. No need. For him. Living, watching me live well, watching my children grow up healthy, is the greatest punishment. For him. I picked up a son who was toddling over, wanting me to hold him, and kissed him hard on the forehead. "Mommy loves you." Outside the window, Gu Chuan's desolate figure quickly disappeared into the crowded stream of people, never to be seen again. And in my world, the sun shone brightly, with no more gloom.